Hello and welcome to the latest installment of PSG Talking. I'm your host Ed, and on today's episode, we're talking all about some potential changes to Ligue 1 and potential return of the Coupe de la Liga, and so much more. Today, I'm joined by longtime PSG Talk contributor Marc Damon. Marc, welcome into the show. I want to just share with everyone before we get started, we've got some changes that we want to kind of hint at a little bit. So, as you know, I always, in this time in the pod, talk about PSG Talk Extra Time over on Substack. It's sort of our premium website for subscribers. This weekend, we are going to rebrand that a little bit and go with a new name, Ensemble PSG. The idea behind this rebrand is to create a sense of community, togetherness. I think that this season especially, the fan base has really rallied behind this likable team. And so we wanted to give fans a place where they could go and talk about the club more and talk about the club that we all love. So to that end, subscribers, they're going to get access to more podcasts, more content. We've got a very active Discord server with really passionate fans and great conversations going over there. So you'll get access to that. And we're trying to come up with some more things to give you guys. So look for that announcement this weekend. But Marc, this was sort of your brainchild. So anything else you want to add to it?
First of all, hello everybody. Nice to be here as always. I just thought at the end of the day, this is a hopefully growing community of English-speaking Paris Saint-Germain fans. And I felt like, and I think we both sort of felt like we needed to make the experience for everybody more inclusive. And I sort of wanted, my sort of idea was to sort of turn this into like a fan group, like a supporter group. So that's sort of the vibe we're looking for. Like, we have different chapters of PSG fans across the world. And rather than us sort of being a PSG fan base from a certain city or a certain state or a certain country, it's sort of just our general English-speaking community of fans that we've hopefully been able to serve over the last 10 years or so of this venture. And we're really proud of the work we've done, and I think this is sort of the next step to take, where now it's like hopefully bringing you all along with us and creating more content and creating more creating more goodies for you to experience, more articles. I'm unretired from writing. I've got a video essay that I've been working on. I haven't done the video part of it, but the writing is pretty much all done. And I think that's going to be one of the first things I'd like to put on the Substack as a premium, as some kind of premium video of sorts. We'll see how that works. But no, it's exciting. I think it's 10 years. It's been time. Ed's obviously been here since the beginning. He started the whole thing. And I've joined in 2017, so I've been around
nearly as long, yeah,
almost 8 years now. And it's hopefully something that you will all enjoy and jump on. And we know you have multiple multimedia options to spend your time with. So we're very grateful that you choose to spend it with us. This is truly a labor of love. It is truly it's real, punk rock here at PSG Talk. It's not, it's not a big major thing here, but we're trying to grow it. We're trying to expand it, and with your help, we can take this thing to the next level, hopefully.
Yeah, and just one more quick thing on that. I forgot to mention, we'll have a little store set up online. So if you want to go and get a magnet or a sticker or a shirt with our logo to kind of show you belong to the quote-unquote Ensemble PSG club, you can certainly do that. And Marc and I, as you mentioned, we've been doing this a long time. But if you think you've got what it takes, if you have a unique take on something and you want to write a piece, absolutely reach out, send me a DM. And we're always looking for new contributors, so definitely do that. But yeah, we'll have that announcement and details coming very, very soon. So be on the lookout on all things social media, PSG Talk. All right, Marc, we've got 3 different topics that I need to get your thoughts on. We thought this would be kind of a quiet week, but we had a bunch of things pop up, and we were like, you know what, we got to jump on the pod to talk about this. So topic number 1 is a report that came out that the French Football Association, the French Football Federation, they're looking to disband the LFP and reshape Ligue 1 to what they're calling a Premier League model. So essentially what they're doing is looking to create sort of like a company that's going to be governed by the clubs. Each club's going to get a vote. There would be a CEO that would lead this company and can be fired by the clubs if they're not doing a good job. Mark, we've talked a lot about the LFP, the lack of marketing in the U.S. in Ligue 1, the botched media deals, both domestically and international deals are just atrocious. So what do you think of this proposal? Do you like it?
I think that, quite frankly, they can't really do any worse. So you're sort of in that situation where any change is almost by proxy, an improvement. And I just think that it's sort of weird that it's come to this, honestly, because in a weird way, they could have done this at really any time. I mean, over the course of the last 15, 20 years, or whatever amount of time, like, if the French Football Federation could simply just disband the LFP, and from my understanding, this would have to go through like legislation, like it would have to be something that passed through the French Assembly to be ratified. I don't think they can just do this unilaterally. I think it has to be approved by the government.
That's right. Yeah.
It's one of those things where it's absolutely the right way to govern the sport at the moment. And for those who, again, may not fully understand the issue with French football, it's really an issue of revenue. The French game does not generate the level of revenue that the other top European leagues. So, if we talk about the big five, we're talking about England, France, Spain, Germany, and Italy. Those are your big five. And the French league is very clearly, from a revenue perspective, the fifth biggest league in Europe.
The report from L'Equipe said that the LFP, financially weakened, now largely reliant on 8 to 9 million euro from sports betting. So that's where the money's coming from, sports betting. It's only 8 to 9 million. That's, compared to the Premier League, shockingly low.
Well, there's a lot of things that have sort of led into this, because the sport has grown rapidly in the global market in, let's say, the last 25 years, right? Like, the Premier League was sort of when the Premier League was created in 1992, it was sort of at the very beginning of that sort of globalization of the sport. And now it's taken it's such on a different scale than it's ever really been. And French football was very much left behind in that globalization push. And you have a club like PSG, who are luckily, in this sense, taken over by a foreign government that could pump money in and could keep the thing afloat. And now, PSG are by far the most successful French club when it comes to revenue. And the other clubs, get by. But look at what has happened over the last couple of years. We just start with Bordeaux. Bordeaux is a major French club. Imagine, like, in the Premier League, Everton or Aston Villa just going away into the fifth division of English football. That just isn't going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just, it's very much not, if you are a top to mid-tier Premier League team, you're fairly taken care of. And there would never be a situation where Everton would just cease to exist as a professional football club. And that's what happened to Bordeaux. Bordeaux is now, I think, in the fourth or fifth division as an amateur side. And, Saint-Etienne almost went through something similar. They're going to go back down to Ligue 2. Um,
Lyon had like 400 some million euro in debts, and they were provisionally relegated. There's a lot of clubs. I think there was a report that said there were like 8 clubs in Ligue 1 that were in financial danger.
yeah, no, that it's a serious problem, and it really, again, it stems from the lack of revenue. Um, and a that really is caused by not having a premier level television contracts, and just how the LFP has completely botched and mishandled the television rights over the last 10 years, really specifically over the last 4 to 5. And how they've actually, in a world where TV contracts have gone up, where essentially if you are a sports company, if you are football, American football, basketball, baseball, hockey, hell, professional wrestling, if you're anything that's live, that a streaming service or a cable channel can put on their network and get consistent views and ratings and advertising revenue from, you're going to make money in the television business, right? And that's what really these leagues are. They're television products.
Yeah.
And the LFP has completely done something that it's almost hard to do. It's almost impossible to devalue a television contract and to devalue your product as a television product. And they've done that. And I mean, we can get into it even a little deeper, but that's really that's really the key.
And
And
what's really shocking is they did that when Kylian Mbappe, Neymar, and Messi were in the league. Like that takes a special skill to do that.
it's really about, okay, so again, it's really about how your product is marketed and what you can bring from a television product perspective. And the League on product is, in certain ways, it's getting better, I think, from where it had been. But in certain ways, it's just a massively inferior product, not necessarily on the field. I think that's a bit of a canard that's been pushed over the years, that Ligue 1 is somehow vastly inferior to the Italian or the French or the German league. I wouldn't say it's exactly even, but it's not miles and miles behind in terms of quality. It's really the way that the sport is marketed and the way that it is pushed out, and some of the sort of arcane, uh, sort of, I guess we'd call them copyright laws, and sort of the way that they show off their product. I mean, again, we can get into it, but it's been a mess, and they need to change it. Somehow they need to change it, and I think this is the best way to do it, to just get rid of the LFP entirely.
Get rid of it. I think this all started with that Media Pro deal. I think the LFP got a little greedy. The LFP thought that they had a television deal in place that was going to bring the league as a whole and the clubs a lot of money. That falls through. They had to scramble to find something, and what they got was a really poor. I think they're with DAZN now domestically, and they've got, as we know, the international is beIN Sports, and we know how poorly that is produced. And so they're not bringing in as much money from this television deal. The quality is really poor. People aren't subscribing to it. It's the league as a whole is in real trouble, and as you mentioned, a lot of these teams, they rely on that. I mean, if the team wasn't, or if the league didn't have so many talented players and teams weren't able to maybe transfer them on and bring in transfer fees, I think we probably would have seen a lot more teams probably go under by now. But because there is so much talent in the league, and that speaks to, again, to your point about the talent is there, I don't think the drop-off is that significant that people say. The Premier League is what it is because of the marketing, because of the TV deals. The clubs are able to use that money to then sign players and have that depth and all of that. And Ligue 1 teams just can't. They've got to do it the hard way. They need an influx of cash. And so I'm with you. At the end of the day, the LFP has proven to be incompetent. And if you're going to follow any model when it comes to TV rights and financial stability, why not follow the Premier League team? So I fully back this. It's going to be interesting. Like you said, it's got to go through all the legal, stages and finally get approved. But ultimately, I hope what happens is that this goes through. We get some new leadership, a new structure on the way this thing is governed, and then some better marketing of this league. I think we saw hints of it, with the new intro to the games. Like, I think they've got talent there. I think they know they can do it, but they need a leader that can really kind of throw gasoline on the fire and really, explode this league and open people's eyes to it more and reach more people. So, again, saw little hints of that, but I want to see more of that. And I think with this model, they can certainly do that.
Well, here's again, just a couple of things to just point out, right? So I do not see Ligue 1 highlights on my X feed.
I tweeted this out. beIN Sports at the last PSG game did not tweet out any of the goals that were going on during the game that they were broadcasting. And instead, they were talking about Atletico Madrid or something. Because I think they think they'll get more engagement, and maybe that's true. But you have the rights to this league, and you're not sharing goals from PSG, the team that just a few days before qualified for the Champions League final. Like, what is this madness?
Well, and I'm just looking at it in terms of like, if I watch the Champions League, right? Like, if I watch the Champions League, I can basically follow the Champions League matches on, CBS's Golazo Twitter feed. I can basically see every goal 5 minutes after it happens.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Ligue 1 doesn't work that way. The rules are kind of arcane for what video clips they can show. Things get removed very quickly. Like, if you happen to see a comp video from a Ligue 1 match, like, you better watch that thing right away, because very likely it's going to get taken off.
You can't embed their YouTube videos. Unless it's changed recently, you can't embed them on your website. So if we write an article about a goal, we can't embed their video. You have to watch it on their YouTube channel.
And you also have the problem of they went really heavy into the anti-piracy angle of, like, DAZN's paying however much money for these rights, and they're charging. I mean, we remember at the beginning of the year, we were looking at what DAZN was charging for.
Yeah.
I think it was like 40 something a month just for the Ligue 1 package. 40
and that
something.
Blew up because then later in the season, they're like, buy a Big Mac and you get a free streaming.
But it's like, here's the thing that I think that Ligue 1 doesn't understand. And I think a forward-thinking president, like, if I had to give Ligue 1 advice, and I said, what should the president do about their product? I would say, sell it for free. And I don't mean like the TV rights for free. I mean, like, get the product out there. Let people see it. Let people experience it. Like, we live in a generation, we live in a society where content is king. And you can't guard your content and, put it in a chokehold and put it behind these sort of arcane rules and paywalls and blackouts and all this kind of stuff. Like, people just want to clip stuff. Like, people just want to consume content as quickly and as conveniently as possible.
Yeah, that's what makes the NBA so popular. I mean, we watch the playoff games, but during the season, people don't watch full games. They just want to see the clips, the highlights. And and the NBA is very popular on social media. The ratings may not be there, but that's because people can watch the clips and highlights and commentary on different platforms.
And just completely abdicating the sort of English language part of what they should be doing, right? Like, yes, French is a very popular language. It's one of the whatever the top 10 languages in the world. It's definitely up there. A lot of places speak French, but more places speak English. And there's no English studio shows really anymore that I can tell. anything that they've done in the past was just sort of canned stuff. Remember, it's all sort of just canned, clip shows and stuff. Like,
Right. Right.
there's a lot, and we've covered a lot of this ground before. But I think the larger point to this is it can't be this hard to watch. It can't be this hard to watch this product because it's not. It doesn't need to be this hard. And I think they need to just pull this back and get someone that understands that the more people are exposed to the product, the more they're going to want to watch it. And the more you market the clubs, the more you put the stars in the clubs at the front of this thing. And, really, and I think they've actually done a decent job marketing this year. I like the sort of.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah.
They were a little more sort of trying to connect it to the streets of French cities and give these teams some kind of identity, which is a good start. But you just need so much more money behind that, and you just need to resurrect the TV deals. But yeah,
I'm with you.
What we don't need is a 4-team playoff at the end of the year.
Well, we're going to get to that. I want to get your thoughts on it. But speaking of TV, the French Football Federation, there's been this idea tossed around that maybe, the Triple F TV, they would broadcast Ligue 1 and Ligue 2 in the professional Ligue 3, as well as the Coupe de France. So they would, in the first two women's divisions and all the matches so all things French football would be on FFF TV, and I'm sure you would subscribe to that somehow. And that is a package I think a lot of people would sign up for, because you're sort of piggybacking on arguably the best national team, or at least in the top 3 national teams in the world. People are going to want to watch that team, so you sign up to watch them, and then when they're not playing, you can watch PSG, whoever, Le Havre or something, So like, I think that's a really interesting idea. So they would maybe, I don't know if they would get away. They probably would just get away with DAZN and beIN Sports, put it on this package, and people all around the world can subscribe to it, and you would just stream the games. I think that's a modern take, and I think it'd be successful.
Again, what they're doing now isn't working. So anything that they try by proxy is probably going to be, slightly better. But it's like,
Yes.
we live in the United States, and Ligue 1 does not have this large footprint in the United States. And I'm not saying that it would be easy to just go into the United States and grab a market share like the Premier League has. That took decades to do. But it almost seems like, again, when you think provincially and you don't think globally, you tend to miss opportunities when they happen, right? Like, you really think about it. Like, this is an opportunity. PSG are in the Champions League final. And then very shortly after are going to go to the West Coast of the United States and play 3, Club World Cup matches, and then potentially come to the East Coast for a quarters, semis, and finals. They might, depending on how well they do. This could be a real, PSG are going to be playing on CBS on the 31st of March. They're going to be playing.
And then next summer, you've got the World Cup that's in the United States. You've got a lot of PSG players that are going to be there. Like, now's the time to strike. And maybe that's the reason why we're seeing a lot of proposals and movement.
And it's like, it can't just be one club. You can't build a league around one club. That's not sustainable. I think there's a couple things that have fallen into their lap here where they can take advantage of. Like, if you can keep Lyon up, I don't think it's in anyone's benefit to, like, first of all, and I'm going to say this honestly, there is no reason that Lyon should be sent down. Absolutely none. Figure it out. Bail them out. You can't afford to have a club go into administration that's that big. Just for some arcane DNGC rule of revenue and stuff that you are imposing upon yourself, right? These are not. This is not an exterior rule that the French government is placing on these football clubs. This is the, Triple F, whose subs, the LFP, who are the sort of subsidiary of the Triple F. that have another branch of it that's their financial branch. I think it's the I think it's the DNGC. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it's the DNGC. It's some
We'll give it to you. It sounds right.
It's a weird initial. Okay. So you're going to relegate possibly your second biggest club for financial reasons instead of figuring out a way to keep them up? Like, what? Like, talk about biting off your nose to spite your face.
Yeah, La Liga, I mean, Barcelona had all kind of issues. They didn't relegate them. They worked with them, let them carve out all kind of unique ways to show they had revenue, and French football should try to do the same, whether it's the LFP or whatever the new governing body is.
Who gives a crap if they're losing money? First of all, whose fault? Like, okay, yes, part of it is obviously Lyon's fault, but who else's fault is that? So if you're the LFP, you botched the TV deal, and now because you've botched the TV deal, your clubs don't have revenue, so now you relegate them? Like, what are we actually? What are we trying to?
You got to go to John Texter and say, look, you got to get this team. You got to balance the books here. You got to write a check. Let's go.
Sell it. Or make them sell it, which is what they do to clubs that are in trouble. You make the guy sell it.
Yeah.
And
there's a way. I'm with you. I don't want to see Lyon. Yeah. I hate seeing Bordeaux. I don't want to see any big club like that.
You don't want clubs to have this happen, and
because those are brands that mean something to people that know something about French football. Like, as much as we don't like Marseille and all that, I don't want to see them go down.
No, I don't want to see Marseille, Lyon, Saint-Etienne. You know, these are Nice, Monaco. Like, there actually are some kind of like names you can kind of make some money off of.
Absolutely, and there are places.
You have this Paris derby that's now dropped in your lap.
Yes, that's a great point.
With a team that's going to have some financial backing, that's going to be able to in theory, that's going to be able to, has the richest family in France, the Deneau family, backing it. They should be able to put a good product on the field.
Said they want to invest like $100 million or something like that in new players, and so yeah, well, absolutely, I think I'm all for it. At the end of the day, I'll back in early 2000s or something, if you were in the U.S., the way to watch the Premier League was on like Setanta Sports. They showed maybe 1 or 2 games a week, and the Premier League and football in general was just a very niche sport. No one was really. It wasn't as popular as it is today. What changed? Oh, the Premier League got on NBC Sports here in America, and now you can go to South Dakota and see kids wearing, Aston Villa kits. So that's what you have to do. It's a long journey, but you've got to get in front of eyeballs. Think about, I've mentioned this example before, Formula One. No one really cared about Formula One. All of a sudden, the Netflix special comes out, and now the United States has a race not only in Austin, but they got one in Miami and now one in Vegas. You see people, Max Verstappen, even some of the lower tier racing teams. So you've got to get in front of people. You got to show them the stories, the clubs, the history, the players, why they should care. And after a while, that's going to work out. Let PSG be the way they come into the league, and then show them the Saint Etiennes, the Lyons, the Monacos, and I believe it's not going to be, it's not going to be the Premier League big, but we can get there. And so I'm just happy to see some movement. Mark, let's get to the next one, because I think we're going to differ on this a little bit. That isn't the only proposal. So according to reports, there's another proposal that they want to create a 4-team playoff to decide the Ligue 1 champion. There would be a semifinal and then a final. Radical idea. If adopted, Ligue 1 would be the only top 5 league in Europe to crown its champion this way. For you, Mark, do you think that this would increase the interest in the league, or no?
No, it would. Look, again, I think that it's not a bad idea to try to be different. You can be better than, you can be worse than, or you can be different than. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to just stay in the status quo, because that's how the LFP and French football has gotten in this mess in the first place. However, I think that I am one of those people that, and just so you understand we have a bunch of, college football people in our orbit. So yeah. I hated the college football playoff when it started. And I don't really like it even now because I think it bastardizes what college football is, right? It strips the identity of what it is. It turns it into the NFL. And now all college football is all it is NFL Junior, right? That's what, to me, that's what it's become. It's NFL Junior. And I used to love college football far more than I do now. And again, I would say one of the direct reasons was because they put in this stupid playoff that is just a money grab that completely takes away from what college football is supposed to be, which is the best teams over 12 games, 1 seed, 2 seed, national championship. That's really all you need. You don't need any more of this nonsense where a team can lose 3 games and have a shot at the national championship. That's just dumb to me. Like it's not like a professional sport where in America where the playoff makes sense because teams are more even and there's more good quality players in the professional leagues than there are in the college ranks. But in this case, what you're doing is you're saying essentially that the regular season doesn't matter, right? And that's the last thing you want to do if you're a league that nobody takes seriously.
No, but it does. You want to try to get to the top 4. It doesn't matter. It would matter.
Do what? Okay, but if you get to the top 4, okay. So let's say the season finishes, okay, let's see where we are now. I'm going to look at the standings right now, and we'll see what this would look like. So here's your League One standings. PSG have 81 points. Marseille have 62 points. Monaco have 61 points. Nice have 57. So what you're telling me is you're going to play each team twice, 18 teams in the league. You're going to have a 34-game season that you're going to then have a playoff after that, which would be a minimum of 2 games. And if you go to a 2-legged format, which is what a lot of these playoffs are, that's what the Premier League, the championship playoffs in England are. It's 2 legs and then a final. Now you're playing 3 more matches in the middle of May, when it's possible that a PSG would be in the Champions League final or in that competition. So now you're further adding more games so that a 57-point team can upset an 81-point team. And then PSG get what out of that? Do they get like a regular? Do they get a whatever they call the shield in MLS that you get?
Yeah, the community shield. What is it called?
Oh, yeah, you get a commissioner's shield, and then you lose in the playoffs. You don't actually win the league. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I can't.
Supporters shield. That's what it is. Supporters shield.
Of course, the supporters shield. Which is like a consolation prize. It's like, yay, you won the supporters shield. No one cares. It just, I don't want gimmickry. I don't think they need a gimmick. Go ahead.
Okay,
don't. Idea. Play devil's advocate here.
Okay, don't we love March Madness? And I'll grant it. It does make the regular season kind of unimportant, but you want to be a top seed in that tournament to avoid some of the other big teams, so it does matter to a certain extent. But what we love about March Madness, college basketball, is there's this tournament, it's 1 game, and your Dukes, your UConns, whatever, they could be upset by St. Peter's, was it the school in Chicago, like all these Valparaiso back in the day, like all these lower level teams. We love that stuff. We love these upsets. So yeah, PSG are on 81 points, and looking at the table, I mean, shoot, the race to get in the top 4 would have been incredible. Nice is on 57 points. Lille's on 57 points. Strasbourg is on 57 points. Lyon are at 54 points, and even Brest are at 50 points. So they're all within that striking distance, jockeying for position to get up there. And let's say Strasbourg gets in there at 4th, and we just saw them beat PSG. as a PSG fan, obviously I wouldn't like that, but it creates this drama. It's something different. Football fans in general, it creates a buzz. People would be looking for that video. Strasbourg upsets PSG to win Ligue 1 title in, playoff. For me, that I think that separates PSG Ligue 1 from other leagues, and I think it creates that buzz. It creates that interest. People are going to want to see those upsets. That's why we love college basketball and March Madness.
Well, yeah, I mean, but college basketball is a very different type of sport with a very different history to it. Like, basketball was built around tournaments. That's what basketball was from pretty much its inception. Like, there used to be they still have it, the NIT, the National Invitational Tournament.
And football has tournaments. They've got Coupe de la Liga, which we'll talk about, Coupe de France, FA Cup,
yes, so
League Cup.
Okay. So now you have the Coupe de France is a knockout tournament, and now Ligue 1 becomes a knockout tournament at the end. And then we're adding another cup in there, the Coupe de la Ligue. Then that's another knockout tournament.
The alternative is PSG just wins this thing by 20 points and it's wrapped up by March.
But what about the other teams getting better in trying to beat them? Like, this is my point, right? Like, leagues have been leagues for 100 and something years, and they've been done the same way. And yes, there has to be changes in the way certain things are done, absolutely. But if you do that, let's say you do that in the Premier League, Leicester City doesn't win the Premier League title. There's no way in hell they survive a 4-team playoff with Chelsea and Man City and Man United. Not going to happen.
I don't know. That was a pretty good Leicester team.
But they won because they did the thing they were supposed to do, which is they won the league. Right? You're not winning. And also, again, if you do that, at the end of the season, PSG are resting half their guys for 4 weeks to set up the playoffs so they don't burn themselves out or get injured.
But what you're setting up is basically we've only had Lille and Monaco beat PSG over the last decade. So what you're saying is only twice a decade will we ever get a competitive league race.
But why do the other leagues get a pass from this? See, this is what I'm saying. Like, we have to. This is what Ligue 1 has to do. It has to stop thinking like it's inferior. Like somehow, like PSG just dominate this league. Like, okay. I sent this on Twitter. In the last decade, Ligue 1 has had, let's say the last 7 or 8 years since I've been covering the team, we've had three Ligue 1 winners: Lille, Monaco, and PSG. The Premier League's had 2. The Bundesliga has had 2, and the Spanish League has had, I think, 3.
But I would say look at the points total. I mean, is there a 20-point gap between first and second?
But there isn't always a 20-point gap. Literally,
no, that's true. But I mean, there's usually a sizable gap.
Okay, so let's see. League. I'm going to go back because this is interesting now. Last year,
while you're looking that up, I think
last year was 9.
Okay.
Last year was 9. 2022, 2023, the total was 1 point. They won it by 1 point against Lens.
Shout out Lionel Messi for getting that title for PSG.
I think there's this misnomer. Okay, and then 21-22 it was 15. That was when it was a 38 game schedule. The 2020,
just take the average over the past 10 years. What's been the average between first and second?
And then Lille beat them by 1. I'm going to say it's probably somewhere around 6 or 7. So PSG are winning the league by about 2 to 3 games every year, if we're just going on the average.
You're right. Yeah.
So I don't see this need for this. Like, I just think it makes your league inferior by definition when you say the only chance anyone ever has of winning a title that's not PSG is if we have this tournament where literally anything can happen. We basically just make it a complete lottery.
That's going to be the tagline. League on playoffs. Literally anything can happen.
Yeah, it's like it's a lottery now, and it takes away the actual accomplishment of beating PSG. That's to me, that's how sports leagues are in Europe. That's how a league gets better, right? Like someone has to rise up to make it a two-team league. And there's absolutely candidates. If they get the right ownership and they get the right funding, there is an ability to have a 2 to 3 team league like every other league is. And we can have competition, Marseille or Lyon or a team like that. And then, maybe there's a year where like Leicester City in 2016, like a Strasbourg wins it. Or Lens can, get within a point. I just think I like the idea, and I think there's changes they need to make. But I just don't think I think that's too big of a change, and I think it's a surrendering to the narrative that Ligue 1 is uncompetitive. And I don't think they should just surrender to that.
So I asked ChatGPT, because math is not my strong suit. Over the past decade, 2014 to 2024, the average points difference between first and second place teams in France's Ligue 1 has been approximately 13.5 points. So the average is 13 points. So a little bit more than what you were saying. Does that change anything at all? Because I'm just thinking, you look at PSG.
I'm thinking of that year that they won it by 30 points in
2015-16. Yeah.
So there's some outliers to that. I think, whenever you average stuff, you want to take out the outliers. But I don't think it changes much of what I'm seeing recently, which is that the league is getting better. The league is absolutely getting better.
We need Paris FC to step up. They've got the ownership. Step up. Put some money in this team.
If you get a rivalry like that, and that could really be something that ignites a league. It really can. If you get that, if that derby takes off, and it should. Like the gimmick I would do, and nobody will ever do it, but the gimmick I would do next year is I'd play the Paris derby in both stadiums. One half in the one stadium. Everyone, the teams walk the 15 feet to the other stadium, and play the second half in the other stadium. You've now, instead of selling out one building, now you've sold out 2 buildings.
Now, what if the players are attacked as they're going through? There needs to be an underground tunnel like they've got in the Capitol here in DC. Yeah. We need an underground tunnel for the players.
But think about how cool that would be. You'd have a procession and a march to the other stadium. That to me is a better gimmick. That'd be a cool gimmick.
The best gimmick, though, of all is the Uber Eats delivering the ball. That's always been my favorite Ligue 1 gimmick. All right, Mark, we got one more proposal for you.
Okay.
And that is the potential return of the Coupe de la Liga. The French League Cup, it was scrapped in 2020, lost its broadcast rights, and so there was no money to be had, so they got rid of it. I've always loved this competition purely for the trophy design. I love the gold wraparound swirl. I love it. I always go on eBay. I've said this before. I always look to see if the replica mini ones. I would love to have one in my collection. So if anyone knows of any out there for sale, let me know. But anyway, if it returns, as we're talking about innovation, this seems like the best opportunity to maybe do some innovation. So put your tinfoil hat on. What are your thoughts on the competition returning, and what do you think could be done differently with the tournament this time to keep it alive, to keep that interest going in it?
So if I were doing that, I would say I don't want PSG playing, just from a personal perspective, I don't want PSG playing more matches. I also don't want the teams in Ligue 1 playing, another 4 rounds of matches or whatever the hell it is. There's enough matches as it is. We absolutely have to take away this incentive to just continually add matches. And I think the way you go about this is there's 2 ways to do it, which is you offer it to the bottom tier of Ligue 1. So let's say the bottom tier of Ligue 1, and then maybe the top something teams in Ligue 2, and then either the winner goes to Europe. European spot, which is I think what used to happen, right? Like
that a team would get a European spot for winning it.
Yeah,
I believe so.
something like that. But what I would say, I think it honestly should just be a Ligue 2 tournament, and then the winner gets automatic promotion. That's what I would.
Yeah, it was. You would get entrance to the UEFA Europa League to the winning team.
Yeah, I would, or have the winner goes to the Conference League, since they have that new tournament now. Winner goes to the Conference League. But I don't think there's any way to make that interesting or any way to make that important at all, honestly. Like there's just too much going on.
It's a lot of games. You're right. And I'm trying to think, for PSG, if the incentive is Europa League or Conference League, PSG doesn't really have any business playing it, because if they win it, then you go to the next team, and if it's say Lyon and
you're just taking a spot away.
Yeah, so I like your proposal of maybe just mid-table and below teams competing in this. So maybe you do it. You have a cutoff date. You say, okay, all the teams, 8th and below, you're going to be in this Coupe de Ligue tournament. I like that a lot, and then that's an incentive. I really like that. And maybe some of the League 2 teams, you could get them involved. So I like that one a lot. I was also thinking, here in the U.S., we've got these cross-conference and college athletics. Then you've got the MLS doing the League Cup, the Leagues Cups, where the MLS will play Liga MX. So I'm thinking, is there another league that Ligue 1 can go up against? Maybe they replace the Mexican League and play MLS over here. I don't know. Travel would be difficult, but is there some sort of tie-in with another league that maybe the lower level teams could get together and go league against league? Because what's the debate? Oh, Serie A is better than Ligue 1, whatever. Well, let's figure it out. Let's see who's better. Let's get more of these cross league games going if we can.
Yeah, I think if you really want to get into things that'll never happen, but I think what you should do again is you should have it be, whatever team. Okay, here's what I would do. All right, and this will never happen, but we'll end on this. This is what we'll do. So if you're a French team that is in Europe, you don't qualify for the Coupe de la Ligue. So any team in Ligue 1 and Ligue 2 that aren't qualified for European football. So whatever teams that aren't, they qualify. You have the tournament, and the winner will get to pick what they want. So you have like this, it's like let's make a deal or something. You get these 3 or 4 different choices you have. So the first choice would be you get a relegation free pass. So if you're ever relegated, you can use your free pass and get out of jail and not be relegated. The second one would be
interesting.
Something like that. The second choice would be something like you get to play in, you get to go to the Conference League or something. So either you can't get relegated, or you go to the Conference League and you get to play in the UEFA Conference, something like that. You know what I'm saying?
I gotcha.
If you want to make it into, like, if you want to do a complete gimmick, just do a complete gimmick. Who gives a crap? It's not important.
No,
okay. I like that they don't have the Coupe de la Ligue anymore, because I think there's too many games, and it's dumb to have a team like PSG celebrating this stupid trophy that it looks cool, but it doesn't mean anything, and no one really. It's just adding silverware to a trophy case. It's stat padding, and it's because like what at the end of the day, like Maxwell had like 25 trophies at PSG, and it's like, okay, was Maxwell an all-time great PSG player? No, but he had like 25 trophies or some nonsense like that. So
trophy padding. All right, if you're going full gimmick, I think I have a solution. That might solve some of the problems that you brought up, and if you want to go full gimmick. So one of my favorite games growing up was NBA Street. Why not do some kind of street football competition? And we're not talking about 11-11. Each Ligue 1 team, pick your 3 players. They could be youth players. Pick 3 guys and just do a 3-on-3 tournament during some lull in the season. You go to some street court, and you go 3-on-3, and then you win this cool trophy. And that way, you're leaning into the gimmick. Who wouldn't watch that? You know, you got the PSG youngsters out there, some of the Monaco guys, like that. Go full gimmick. Very cool. It would be brilliant to watch on TV. The skill would be amazing. It's not like a real game. You shorten it. You know, I would love that. And I think if they want to bring this back and innovate, do something like that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, honestly, I don't. Again, it's the Coupe de la Ligue. Do what the hell you want.
All right, Mark. It's late. You stayed up late for us. We had some technical difficulties, so I really appreciate that. Really appreciate you coming on. Thank you all out there for listening to this midweek show. We had some things pop up, so we wanted to get on the airwaves and chat about that. So hopefully you enjoyed what we had to say. Hopefully you'll stay tuned for the rebrand this weekend that we talked about. So stay tuned for that on how to get involved. We'll have a lot more on all things PSG, but until next time.
Au revoir for now.